Oh God! Oh cry! Oh no! Please! FB! All right, please! Bloody hell! Oh my God! Oh! Okay. Okay. God, I love sorcery. Hello, my fellow tarnished, and welcome one, welcome all, as today I share with you 5 secrets, tips, tricks, little known ways to enhance your magic onslaught and make you just all the more powerful and hard to deal with for any enemy that would dare stand against you. I don't want to waste any time here, so let's get straight into this with, well, the very first one. Few of you may know this, but I'd wager a few of you don't. You know how spells can be chain cast? No, that's not the tip, okay? But you know how that's the thing, right? You can just spam them and it cuts out the startup animation, and you know, until you stop or run out of FP, you're all good. But did you know that any sorcery or incantation or any spell, that can be chain cast into each other? If you swap what current sorcery you have on and then keep spamming cast, you will just fluidly move into the other sorcery. This is incredibly useful because it lets you really mix things up unexpectedly, all surprising like. It also lets you smoothly control damage or suddenly burst, doing like a little pebble into a comet or a reverse without having any time in between or having to stop and start casting again. It's a really useful little mechanic, and it's not one that I see actually taken advantage of often. Doing something really quick like the slicer into something bigger and slower and meatier like a Dueler's Moonblade is really effective. Now don't get me wrong, it doesn't speed it up per se. The time between starting a Dueler's from neutral and from the end of Carrion is the same, but it's the fact that you can just smoothly go into it that makes it so effective, because it's so good at catching people off guard, and against bosses it's a really nice way to switch to a more relevant, useful sorcery that you need, but not having to take a break, stop casting, start again, because it does save you the stop casting time, which is a slight speed up over actually just chaining into a new sorcery. It's a cool little bit of tech, and something that's neat and worth knowing, and something that initially was alluded to by a Mr. Zombie Bats, who sent me a message, well, left a comment asking me to bring it up at some point, and finally, that some point has happened. Next up then is one that I think is becoming slowly more and more common knowledge, but I think it's one that I need to really kind of hammer home, because I do get a lot of comments asking me about it, and obviously I'm happy to answer each one, but I think it makes sense to kind of just put this out there. Power stancing glintstone staffs. Although power stancing's probably too far, it's not like you're whack with them, but just holding 2 of them. This is something that you all should really start doing for sorceries that merit it. As glintstone staffs, all of them tend to have passive that boost certain schools of sorcery, or have certain other unique boosts, like Azur's giving you a plus fake 40 dex to your casting speed, which is a notable increase. But it's not the highest sorcery scaling staff in the world, so hold it in one hand and then blast your spells with Lusats, and still keep the speed increased from Azur's. That's quite nice. Say you want to use Night Comet, it does an alright decent chunk of damage, but hey, switch to holding Staff of Loss in your other hand, which gives it a 30% damage increase. Suddenly, much better. And actually, Night Comet is mathematically the best sorcery in the game, and I'll link a video down below where I go through all of my testing to arrive at that conclusion. Or you want to cast off one of the moon spells? Well then, of course, you could do it just normally, or you could do it holding the Regal Scepter in your other hand, and then gain the benefit of its little damage bump. Just very neat, you know? And definitely not something to be ignored, depending on which school of sorceries you do tend to favor, and how full your hands are of various equipment. And to answer 2 very common burning questions, no, you don't need to have the required stats to correctly wield the glintstone staff in your offhand, you still get the passive benefit, and no, you don't have to upgrade the glintstone staff in your offhand, you still get the passive benefit. Next up then, we're going to go invisible. This is glorious. Okay, first and foremost, I just sprinted right up to Mr. Worm King there. Normally he aggroes when you get close if you're not sneaking and crouched, but he didn't. That's because of Assassin's Gambit. This is an Ash of War that you can buy from Mr. Warmaster in Volcano Manor. Whether he's left or not post you completing it, you can still use his shop from the seat where he was. It's fantastic. For a tiny cost of health, you go, well, invisible. Quite literally invisible, and it silences your footsteps and your rolls. So while the glowiness of your glintstone staff still comes through, it massively obfuscates any casting that you do as long as you're about, 10 feet away from your target. So you see what I'm saying here, why this is an exceptional little-known pairing with any sorceries or incantations that have decent range on them. You can do the entire wind-up slow cast of something big and powerful while barely being noticeable, and it completely catches people off guard. It's so funny. I absolutely adore it. I'm sure I don't need to really go into detail the kind of nefarious plans and schemes you can get up to by combining invisibility with magic. And yes, this is a better stealth, a better invis than the actual invisibility sorcery, which is definitely a shame, but hey, what you gonna do? And of course, it's not at all useless in the non-PvP side of things. As, again, with the Worm King, it lets you just walk up to open-world enemies, get right next to them, they just don't see you, and you can do all the setting up to your heart's content, and then blast them to smithereens. Pure vaporization from the comfort of hiding in the shadows. It's an incredibly useful tool, and one I would heartily recommend. Another incredibly useful tool that I would heartily recommend is having a dagger with Bloodhound Step, a Ashes of War that you can pick up from a Knight Cavalry on this bridge over in the east of Caelid. It's so good. I don't really need to exaggerate this one too much or really explain it in too much detail. You've probably seen it. It's on a lot of melee-focused builds. But that doesn't mean a sorceress can't use it. Not only does it make us have an incredibly long iframe rapid dash that is just better than the roll in every way, it lets us create distance between ourselves and the target incredibly quickly. And let's be honest, distance between you and a target is a sorcerer's best friend. So not only does it make avoiding attacks a doddle, it actually gives you that proper spacing tool to make it so much easier to get off your cast in both boss fights and PvP fights, and I absolutely adore it. Honestly, at this point it's become kind of a crutch, and I don't like not having my usual roll. Yes, it costs FP, and we need that for our damage, but it's such a tiny amount, and you will have a massive FP pool, because you're leveling mine as a sorcerer, that it's just kind of a non-factor. It's incredibly worthwhile, incredibly helpful, and makes your life so much easier. Being able to finish a cast, teleport to the right, and then start another cast immediately instead of slowly roll and then do it, feels and is so much better. Next up then is this little interesting device. Do you like it? It's my hand stick. I love my hand stick. Now, this is the Scepter of the All-Knowing, and I'm not gonna spoil where this is from, because, I don't want to spoil it, but know that it is a required mandatory boss fight to complete the game that is towards the end of the game. So if you have it, you know. If you don't have it, you can't miss it, you will get it. But once you do have it, well, don't just throw it in storage and forget about it. It has an incredibly effective Ash of War for anyone who cares about both incantations and sorcery damage. So, in a huge area around you, it will apply the Eye of All-Knowing to both yourself and any enemies. The key here is that it doesn't actually make them angry with you. They don't care, which means you can set this up peacefully without ruining any prep that you want to do, which means you can add it to any prep you want to do. But what does it do? Well, it makes people take about 10% more magic damage, which is obviously lovely. People includes you, but if you're fighting an enemy that doesn't even do any magic or holy damage, then it doesn't matter at all. You're not even getting a negative for it, and you get this cool glowing eye to follow you around, which is obviously a massive plus. Well, most of the time it's a massive plus, I suppose. But yeah, this is really quite fantastic, and if you can afford to put the few points in Dex to make it usable, it's a really fantastic tool for just squeezing out that tiny bit of extra damage whenever you need it, especially as you can set it up for free without making the enemies attack you. And again, in PvP, you can put it on everyone you want that isn't an enemy sorcerer, because they're not going to be doing more melee damage to you because of it, so really, again, no downsides. I really love this thing, and I hope you guys do too. So, there you have it, 5 little sorceress enhancers to make your gameplay as a wielder of the true best way to play Elden Ring magic that little bit better. Let me know if you already knew all of these, if you already used all of these, or if you've seen one and you've gone, huh, okay. For now though, like if you have enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell to, well, not miss any future sorceress endeavors, builds, guides, and all of that good stuff. For now, please consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. It is what keeps us going, and it means the world. It seriously does. Until we meet again then, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.